I'm Annette Grubus from the Taos Archaeological Society. We're out here at our third season. What you have seen in the last few shots are scenes of the archaeology excavation of Mondragon Pueblo at this time in July of 1991. When a few years ago, Larry Mondragon, who owns this property, decided he wanted to build a house up here on the ridge. He had known from years of his family's living in this area that there were potsherds and arrow points and all kinds of lithic material over this mound that we're standing on. Larry had a good friend in the Carson National Forest office where he works. His good friend was the archaeologist Bob Lawrence. Bob talked with Larry about the possibility of the Taos Archaeological Society excavating in this on this property to see if he had anything here before Larry built his house here. Taos Archaeological Society was just getting started and was delighted to have the opportunity to learn, to excavate, and to help Larry out to find out if there was anything here. So this is our third season. Archaeology tries to solve the mystery of who lived in a place at a certain time. So that's what we're really trying to do. We're trying to be detectives, and what we're finding are the clues to our mystery story. In order to find those clues and to know where they are and to know their importance, archaeologists set up a plan of excavation. What we've done here, I'll just walk across here and show you, is set up a grid that we put on top of the mound so that we can measure both vertically and horizontally everything that we take out of the ground and everything that we find. And then after we've destroyed it by excavating, we can go back and look at that information again, and we can possibly think about what happened and where these people were. I'm standing right here by our line that marks our zero line north and south through our entire excavation. It follows all the way over to a blue flag that is on the other end of our excavation. That blue flag is our primary datum. From that blue flag, we measure meters east. This blue flag right here measures 10 meters east of that blue flag. And we've drawn our grid right here from these points across. This measures also north and south of our zero line so that we can identify every meter by its southwest corner as to exactly where it is. And then we can identify everything within that meter by relating it to the southwest corner of that meter. We also measure vertically up and down. In order to measure easily, we establish an artificial plane 1 meter above our primary datum. And we establish that then on our stakes. We relate them to that primary datum, and we measure from these stakes across our site so that we can get so many meters down from that primary plane. This way we can pinpoint everything that we find. We've had some wonderful help from Paul Williams from the BLM, who assisted us in doing a primary search of artifacts on the site. We call this a surface collection, and we took up all of the artifacts that we could see and bagged them according to each meter that they were in. We have this information now so that if somebody can and wants to go back and do an analysis of the search of the primary material on the site, they can look at it. Then Bob Kriebel came out the day we set up our grid and used his transit and helped us establish the grid very carefully. Bob Lawrence with the Carson National Forest has been with us pretty often to give us exact directions and guide us and give us advice. Patty Crown, who was the former director of the field school out at Southern Methodist University was out here and gave us a lot of encouragement and advice. Patty made the comment that for a group of people just starting out, this was really quite a complex site, and that's what we're finding out. Herb Dick came down and helped us point out where we might find artifacts, and those people were so sharp that on our first season's excavation, right over here, we found a pot buried underneath the floor, and we found a rather large hearth. We had a trench here that was about 110 meters below datum, right along here in a 3-4 meter area, and it was in that very first excavation that we found these wonderful artifacts. We feel now that possibly this is the earliest habitation that we have in our whole site. If we have time, we'll go back and uncover it. At the present time, it's been backfilled to protect it. In our second season, we found these rock alignments that you see over here. This probably is a wall. The walls separating rooms. We have what we think are at least 4 rooms down here. We have beautiful floors that are indicated. Compact earth. When we first dug it, it looked white, like it might have had some caliche mixed in it. So we have, in our second season, lots of arrow points, potsherds. We're now analyzing these potsherds in our lab. We have metates. Right over here is a large metate that we haven't taken out of the ground, and it has been pecked on the surface to make it rough again, so that it'll be good for use. And it's a beautiful piece. We just haven't wanted to take it out. This is possibly a rock hearth, but we're not sure. It's very ephemeral, and just those are the rocks where they came from. In our third season, which this is, we found additional rock alignment that you can see extends all the way down to beyond Thurston, right here. And Thurston's looking for the floor right now that will extend over the interior of these 4 rooms. We're going to try to clear this off, and we're going to try to clear off a few walls that may be upper level walls on the outside. We've taken photographs of them and tried very carefully to identify everything that we've done. We have now in our third season found a wonderful new hearth at another level. It's probably the most upper level piece that we have. We hope that this hearth is hard enough and has been baked enough we'll be able to take some archaeomagnetic samples out of the sides of it so that we can date it. We have not so many potsherds this season. We found a maul and a little hand axe, probably within the rooms over here. We are now identifying even more wall at the upper level, and so it just goes on and on, it seems like. Our opportunity for excavating is disappearing since Mr. Mondragon has decided he wants to maybe go ahead and build his house, and we're going to do the best we can with the time we have left and try and solve some more of this mystery. Our crew is hard at work. They're shoveling, troweling, keeping records. They're sifting the dirt. keeping track of everything that we do. Susan's looking for a post fragment near the hearth. She's measuring very carefully to identify where it is. It's right in the corner, kind of a dark corner on the other side of the hearth. This is a very important piece for us. There you see our different techniques of troweling. Jean's working at taking out a wall. We're taking photographs of everything very carefully as we take it out. This piece of wood fragment will tell us a lot about the architecture of the room. And there you see it wrapped very carefully with cotton string so that it won't fall apart as it begins to dry, as it's taken out of the ground. Bill Lechtenberg's opening up a new unit, demonstrating the way to take out the weeds by cutting them off so that they don't destroy the material underneath the ground. The ground is very hard there. It's been dry adobe material, so it takes a little extra effort. Susan's found that her wood fragment is small and it measures about 13 centimeters. It looks like it's probably too small to get the tree ring dating done on it. And it's right in that corner right by the hearth, which is an unusual place. We'll be able to tell a little bit better about where it came from as we draw maps and define it. She's measuring now to get the level of the depth of the piece. Jean's very carefully taking out an upper level wall. We have to take the wall out so we can see if there's anything underneath it, like another wall. All of that material will have to be sifted. Judy and Dorothy and Art are removing a level from the floor. Alex is looking in the sieve to see if he can find any artifacts. Bill Lechtenberg just put some more dirt in to sift. The sieves are 1/4-inch mesh so that nothing that's any larger than 1/4 inch will go through it. That way we're able to capture a lot of potsherds and some lithic points and even corn cobs that we found in the sifters. Pieces of clump adobe we have to break up to be sure that there's nothing inside them, and then we look at it very carefully. We've been shoveling this year for the first time since we have just a short time to complete our project. We still trowel, but we're using the shovels to go a little faster. We go down 10 centimeters at a time. There you see a technique of brushing so that we can remove material without destroying the surface. Thurston's attempting to measure where he's found a floor level. This, again, there are spirit levels that we use to stretch across from our stakes. We found floor. We found artifacts on the floor.
as we look closer, you'll see that we have a pot that's been broken right on the floor. It's very fragile. It looks like it's been burned rather badly, and it's almost falling apart. Susan's scraping off a little of the surface dirt and enjoying the thrill of finding this wonderful floor underneath. This floor probably dates 700, 800 years ago, and it's a marvel to see what they were able to create with such few resources. There's the pot break. We'll very carefully take these pieces up and keep them together, mark them with a field number so that we can take them back to the lab and perhaps put them back together again, just like a jigsaw puzzle. A good photograph like this, or like some of our other still shots, will provide good clues as to how these pieces go together again. We make maps of everything that we do, and we'll identify exactly where this pot break was on our maps, as well as in our photographs. We'll measure the depth, so we'll know exactly where these pieces sat on top of our floor. Most of our fragments are not as fragile as this particular one was. This needs to have a little bit of extra care so that it doesn't just break apart. We'll take these pieces back to the lab and we'll wash them very carefully, let them dry, and then we'll be able to spread them out just as we have here and identify edges if we can, to tell if they are if they go together. We'll be able to tell the material that they're made from, perhaps by looking at them through a microscope. We'll be able to judge the kind of pot it is. It looks like this is a black utility ware that they use for cooking. That's in our record spot, our recording spot. Monica Salazar getting ready to sift. Paul Williams working on a floor level. Here come some visitors. We've had visitors from Taos Valley School, 4th grade. We've had visitors from the 1st and 2nd grade of Arroyo Hondo, and Bob Romero's history class from Northern New Mexico Community College. Willie and Joan are looking for a floor level, and Alex behind them is taking out some of that upper level wall. Paul's identifying the edge of a small hearth. You can see there's a difference in the color of the floor that they're working on, and they're scraping very carefully away that surface. There's some indication that it's the same level as their other hearth, and that it has a lip on the edge of it. Part of it's already been scraped away. Chris is looking for artifacts, potsherds, the floor level appears really very hard. There's a piece of a point that someone found, Paul's looking at. He said it was a side-notched basalt point, and fine-grained basalt is very hard to work. There's our record spot again. Bill Phillips has done a great job helping us keep records. Jeanette came out for a visit, and we put her to work. Willie's keeping track of exactly where that floor level is. And if there are any artifacts on that level, that would be real important for us too. Jeanette's doing a great job for the first time. Alex is helping her identify any artifacts. It's a sherd. We all gather around when someone's found something special. And there's the hearth appearing in the corner. And the floor showing up. Now it's showing up white underneath and very hard. And the lip is showing on the edge of the hearth. Part of the hearth was cut away. You can see the edge. Records are a very important part of archaeology. In our case, we keep a field number for every artifact we find. We keep stratigraphic forms and maps for every 10 centimeters of every meter that we dig. so that we can go back later on when we're all through and look at each 10 centimeters to find out exactly what was found there. There were visitors that day. This is another view of the hearth that Paul found, and he's tamping the floor because he can tell by the sound of it that it's harder and it's a more firm surface than the other. Here we have a good look at the screen. Little clumps of adobe material that we have to go through. Sometimes hard-packed earth. And there are 3 sherds, one a very nice lip. This is part of that wall we're taking out again. It's a really hard material, hard-packed material. It's a kind of slow process, but we get our shovel in there and we'll go after it. Every bucketful has to be sifted. And underneath there's our reward, that beautiful floor. It's hard-packed adobe and caliche mix, so it looks white when you uncover it. And it's very smooth. And those are the potsherds that we found in the wall and around it, and some on the floor. There are not very many there, but put them all together and we have quite a few. And some of our papers that we have to, forms we have to fill out. Paul and Monica are discussing the area in which we found all kinds of animals and the possibilities of the variety that we have. Helping to explain perhaps where our few little bones might come from. Susan found that just above the floor level was an ash level, and then as she went down and dug a little further, brushed away, she found that there was also an ash level just below the floor. And we're thinking that perhaps these floors were rebuilt. You can see the color of the ash level, that kind of dark gray. Again, they're using the spirit level that's attached to a line that's fastened around our stakes. This is the end of our 3rd season, August 1991. We've uncovered the entire area to get a good look at our site. We see walls, rock alignments, different levels, see the floors of our 4 rooms along there. We see walls of adobe as well as rocks. We see this level dropping down to our trench, which was our first area of digging, where we found the pot underneath the micaceous schist in that very spot where we have it now. It's a beautiful piece of black utility ware. We dug out around it to be sure that there weren't more. We've tried to identify the edges of our site where there wasn't anything. We've found a lot of rocks and boulders that we had to dig through that were part of the natural terrain. And there's our prize, a whole pot. You can see how much deeper this trench is from the other areas. Adjacent to this, we have other artifacts that we found, other potsherds. There's a maul that we found in our second season, and a piece of charcoal that demonstrates the piece of burnt post that we took out of the ground. There's our metate that's still in the ground, and there again are rock alignments ending with a side wall that demonstrates some of what was going on at the edge. There's our adobe wall. We could never quite figure out whether it was real or not. There's a part of a hearth that we have found that on an upper level there's another picture of the hearth. We tried to take out part of it to see what it was made of and how deep it went. We found that it was not hard enough, hadn't been baked hard enough to do any archaeomag dating on it. We have upper level walls, and that shows where maybe a fifth room extends off to the right. We have floors that cover almost the entire area to the left. We found another maul and a hammerstone this last season, right where they're pictured. Part of what we do in archaeology is identify the end of a site, and that looks like a lot of nothing, but that's important too. This is the south end of our site. Looking across, you can see our 4 rooms on the left. You see a 5th room, and here are some intersecting walls we found on the south, on the east. We found rooms on top of rooms. We have an excellent picture here of almost the entire site. It's quite complex. there's Dr. Herb Dick holding his post with his camera up on top of it, taking some pictures. With the valley in the background. And there's the crew on our last day of digging. Barbara Du Bois, Bill Stevens, Alex Fletcher, Thurston Tuppen, Elliot Du Bois, Bill Lechtenberg, Tassie, who's named after our Taos Archaeological Society, and Willie Woods, and